Simbukwe. Joseph.
Yes, sir.
You can hear me, huh?
Yes, clear, yeah.
You can see the slides, huh?
No.
Wait.
Yeah, now I can see.
You can see them now.
Yes.
So good afternoon.
Afternoon, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. So today we'll talk about the common obstetric instruments.
Okay.
Yes. Also, these are common instruments that sometimes you find during your OSCE examination, or these are instruments that are used in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology for any procedures. So the first instrument that we're going to talk about is it's a seam speculum. So that's how the seam speculum looks like. So there are two different types of these speculums, okay? You can find that there is one which is single-headed, or there is another one that is double-headed. But sometimes the seam speculum can be called as the duckbill speculum. So since I've said there are two types of speculum, we'll start with the double-ended speculum. Okay? So if it's a double-ended speculum, each side or each end of it will contain two different sizes. You find that at one edge, the size is 26 to 31 millimeters, or it can be 31 and 36 millimeters, or it can be 36 or 36 millimeters to 41 millimeters. Okay, so the way the seam speculum is designed, it's in a rounded bladed shape, which gives it a property of it being atraumatic. What I mean is that once you're using this speculum, there are little chances of you causing trauma to the cervix or to the vagina. Okay, so the hand of the seam speculum is concave. So this property gives it the chance to do what? To drain all blood circulations that may be present in the vagina. The technique on how we use the seam speculum, okay? We always lubricate this blade with the KY jelly or any jelly that is nearby. Then you separate the labia minora, then insert it, okay? So you can insert it in a transverse position, or you can insert it in an angle forming a 90-degree posterior, so that you are able to examine all the whole of the cervix or the vagina. What are the disadvantages of using the seam speculum? Okay, the disadvantages are that when you insert this speculum, it depends on you, the person or the trained personnel who is using it, to do what? To remove it. It cannot move to any position unless you, the one who has inserted it, is controlling the movements of the seam speculum. Okay, so it also moves with the hand, so it's not suitable for colposcopy. Okay. In the ways of the other disadvantage is that always, when you put this patient on a certain position, they have to sit at the edge of the bed, or at the edge of the bed or the table. What are the indications? Okay. So the indications we're talking about, in what state or in what condition can we use the seam speculum? So we can use it when we want to examine the vagina for cervical cancer. We can also use it when we want to check if there's cervicitis, which is the inflammation of the cervix. Also, we can use it also to examine if in cases we're thinking about urine incontinence there, or the any carcinomas, we can use it. Or in cases of any polyps or prolapse, we can use it to examine the posterior part of the vagina. Are we together? Also, in cases
Yes.
maybe after deliveries, in case we're suspecting tears, we can also use it to examine. Okay, so there are sometimes when we want to pack the uterine cavity, maybe sometimes with gauze, we can also use the seam speculum there to package the vagina. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So we go to another type of speculum, which is the Cosco speculum. So that's how the Cosco speculum looks like. Okay. So what are the indications for you to use the Cosco speculum? Okay. So in cases where you want to inspect the cervix or the vagina, we use also the Cosco speculum. Okay. We can also use it when you want to perform pap smear or want to do cervical biopsy in cervical cancer. We can use the Cosco speculum. The disadvantages of using the Cosco speculum is that it covers the anterior and the posterior vaginal wall. Okay, and when you insert this Cosco speculum, there is decreased maneuverability, which means the position at which you lock it in, because when you insert it, you lock. Once you lock, which means it is not flexible, it cannot move anywhere, you cannot remove it until you unlock it. Also, the disadvantages that it brings about is that there is less space to perform D and C. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we talked about the seam speculum. Also talk about the seams in anterior vaginal retractor. And this one, the way it looks like, it has two edges with the spaces with it. That's how it looks like, as you can see on the PPT there. So it's designed in a form of a spoon, or you can say spoon shaped at both the ends with the transverse serrations. The serrations are the holes that are there, like in the form of a spoon, but it just have holes on both sides. The loops make an angle of 15 degrees within the shaft. The indications for using a seams anterior vaginal retractor that it is used to retract the anterior vaginal wall in conjunction with the seams speculum. Okay, it has almost all the same indications as for the seams speculum, because its property, the way it works, and the seam speculum are the same. So we'll talk about another common instrument that is used in OBS in GYN, which is an endometrial biopsy carrot. Okay, so that's how it looks like as presented on the PPT there. You can see it?
Yes.
So what are the indications of using the carrot? The indication is that when you want to make a diagnosis of DUB or infertility, we use the carrot instrument. Also, sometimes when you can also be used in the diagnosis of endometrial cancer. Okay, you can also use it when you want to in endometrial dating or when to make a diagnosis of an ovulation. It's the one that usually insert. It also helps us in making the diagnosis. So we'll look at another common instrument, which is the Doyne's retractor. And the Doyne's retractor has that shape, which is projected there. That's the Doyne's retractor. So the Doyne's retractor is used in retraction of the abdominal walls. Okay, more important when you're doing a cesarean section, it's the one that is used to retract the what? The bladder. You separate the what? The uterus from the bladder. So the Doyne's retractor, this is where you use it. Okay, the advantage is that it provides a big surface area for retraction. So you can also use it in surgical procedures like laparotomy, total abdominal hysterectomy, prolapse repair. Also, sometimes when you're trying to repair when we've made a diagnosis of stress urinary incontinence, we can also use it in retraction. So, another common instrument is the green Hermitage forceps. Okay, so the shape of the green hermitage forceps is triangular. Triangular, it has tips in the transverse serrations. The indications for the green hermitage forceps is that it's used to hold or cut the lower edges of segments of the white of the uterus when you want to deliver the fetus. Sometimes this green hermitage can also be used when you want to suture the corners of the uterus after cesarean section. It's the one that is used to bring the corners together. The advantage of the green hermitage is that it's atraumatic and it helps in maintenance of hemostasis. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so another common instrument is the sponge holding forceps. The spongy holding forceps, the advantage is that it's ring shaped. Okay, in all ends, it is a ring shaped with transverse serrations on inner surfaces, which prevents it from slipping. Okay, when you talk about slipping, what it means that in cases where you are unable to use the green hermitage, you can also use the spongy forceps to hold the corners of the uterus. So once you hold it, you lock it, there are less chances that it will leave the corners when you're trying to bring them together. What are the indications of using a spongy holding forceps? It's used in the preparation of the vagina, the vulva, and the abdominal wall before surgery. So sometimes before you do any surgical procedure, what you do is we know that these are sterile procedures. So these are the same forceps that we use to clean the abdominal area, or if not that, we can use it to clean the vagina. Okay. The other indication is you hold the pregnant cervix during what the insertion of the Foley's catheter. So sometimes when you want to insert a Foley's catheter, we can use the spongy holding forceps. Okay. Sometimes it's the same that we use maybe in when it's an incomplete abortion. Sometimes we want to remove the retained products of conception. Also, we can use it in the repair of the cervical tears, whereby we want to separate the rabies. We can also use it in packaging the uterus when there is postpartum hemorrhage. Okay. So the sponge holding forceps can also be used in blunt dissection in hysterectomy. So it also gives an advantage that it's a traumatic clamp, okay? Or sometimes when you are trying to do bilateral tubal ligation, BTL, we also use the sponge holding forceps to hold the ovaries because of its property of being a traumatic. Okay, so we'll talk about the Alice forceps. This is another common instrument that is used. Alice forceps, which is tooth. Alice forceps can be in two tubes. There is a long forceps which is 17 centimeters, or the short one which is 12 centimeters. Okay, the blades, they are curved and they are toothed. Okay, so the disadvantage of this is that we cannot use it on the skin because because at the end edges of it they are toothed, which means it will bring trauma to the skin. The indications of using the Alice forceps. Okay, the indications that it's used to hold or cut ends of the vagina during procedures like total abdominal hysterectomy, vaginal cyst excisions. Okay, it's also used to hold the cervix during this total abdominal hysterectomy. Can be used to hold the uterine fundus during vaginal hysterectomy. Also, it can also be used in procedures like myomectomy, or it can also be used to hold the rectus sheath. So we'll look at the Cheeto forceps, okay, which is also the same as the cervical punch forceps, which means all these have the same indications. The indication for cervical biopsy, okay, so these can be used in cervical biopsy in cases where we're trying to suspect an ulcer or we're trying to suspect cancer of the cervix. Okay, it is used to rule out all malignant infiltration that can be present at the cervix. So we'll look at which is episiotomy scissors. Okay, so this one, it's 16 centimeters in length and sterilized by butadiene, which is a Sidex. The shape of the which is the episiotomy scissors is that it allows the easy introduction into the vagina and prevents elastic cutting. Okay, the way it's made, the angle prevents butting of the instrument against the patient's buttocks. So it's used, there are 4 types of incisions that can be made during an episiotomy. Okay, so we know that we do an episiotomy in case sometimes when there is CPD, sometimes when you know that there's insufficient space of the baby to pass, we want to assist on the passage of the baby. So on the episiotomy, there are 4 types of incisions that we can make. These are midline, mediolateral, which is the most common, or lateral, or the J-shaped incision. The structure of the cut of these incisions, you can make the posterior vaginal incision, or the superficial and deep transverse perineal muscle incision, barbospongiasis. Okay, sometimes you can do the fascia covering the muscle where we can make an incision from. So another common instrument is the umbilical scissors. So the umbilical cord scissors is 10.5 centimeters long. It is also sterilized with the butadiene. The blade is so kept such that on closing the meter the tip, which prevents the cord from slipping during cutting. So we know that during the management of the 3rd stage of labor, there is a point at which you are supposed to cut the umbilical cord. So the way the umbilical cord scissors is made, it's designed nicely, never to slip, to a point that when you want to cut the umbilical cord, it will not slip. The first trial that you want to cut, it cuts direct without slipping. Okay, so another common instrument that is used is the regress outlet forceps. Okay, this one is used most sometimes when you want to help in the forceps delivery of the baby. Okay, so the regress outlet forceps, it's made of the blade, which is cephalic, it's cephalic curve, and it has a concave shape which goes inside. It also has a pelvic curve which is convex outwards. So the advantage is that it's made of 2 separate parts, and these shanks, when they are brought together, they form a shape of like a scissors. They cross each other, okay, forming the handles meet at some point, but the shanks in front of them, they cross each other. What are the prerequisites for the use of the regress outlet forceps? So before you use this forceps, there's supposed to be an informed consent. This consent is an explanation that you have to give to the patient as you are trying to explain the procedure. Okay, so you should ensure that once you want to use the regress outlet forceps, the bladder should be empty and the cervix should be fully dilated so that you prevent cervical tears. Also, using should you know that an episiotomy should be performed, and we talked about the 4 types of episiotomy. It can be a midline episiotomy. It depends, looking at the dilatation of the cervix. Okay, we should also ensure that there is a favorable presentation. You are aware that the presenting part of this baby is the cephalic. Joseph,
Huh?
you're still there?
Yes, I'm still there.
Okay. Also, the method, okay? How we use the regress outlet forceps. The left blade is introduced using the left hand, so it's opposite. Oh, sorry. The left blade is introduced using the left hand, and the right hand is used to protect the vagina as a guard. So as you're trying to bring the left blade, you're inserting it into the vagina, the right hand acts as a controller, which is like a guide. Okay? So pull is applied first straight backward and finally upward. So the way you do that, when you insert it, you found the presenting part and you've locked. you go downwards in the same way the way the baby will present when it's normal labor. When you go downwards, then you pull the baby upwards. Then you release them. The ring gets out to forceps. Any questions so far?
I have understood, but some, I know, are you going to send some notes?
Yes.
Okay. But the
Another issue we
explanation
want
has
to talk
been.
about is metallic ventral scalp. Okay. So
Mm.
these are in different they're in different sizes. So the metallic ventral scalp is, it can also be called as the mastrum. Okay. The indications are the same as the ventral forceps, which is another form that is used when we're doing assisted delivery or forcible delivery. Okay, so
Yes.
basically the way it is used is that it goes where you target is what it's at the caput area of the baby. So when you put it there, it forms something like an artificial caput. Okay, the effectiveness of it is that is zero. You ensure that 0.8 kg is achieved within 5 to 8 minutes. Once it targets the caput, you ensure that in between 5 to 8 minutes, the baby has to be delivered. What are the advantages over forceps? Okay, the advantages is that it it advantages of it is that you ensure that the cervix, even if it's not completely dilated here, you can use it. When you are looking at the ventral forceps, we know that we need to ensure that there's full dilatation of the cervix. But when you're using a metallic one, the advantage is that even if the cervix is not fully dilated, you can use it because it will go and target what it forms a caput on the head of the baby. Okay, and in this part, the presentation of the baby, it can be used on a malrotated hospital posterior position, and there is less traction and there's less skill that is required. You know that in the previous common instrument that we use, there is a technique that is supposed to be used whereby in the same way the baby is delivered during the normal labor, it has to go down, then you pull it upward. So in this one, there is no any skill that is required. The disadvantages. Okay, the disadvantage is that this one we cannot use it in conditions where there is fetal distress or there's prematurity, because we know that in the way we're going to use it to deliver the baby, it forms a caput, and we know that in these prematurely formed babies, it will be a disadvantage to them to the bones of the skull. The contraindications. Contraindications for the ventral scalp is that it cannot be used in preterm fetus, it cannot be used in CPD, or in situations whereby there is fetal coagulopathies, we cannot use it. The complications are that we know that it forms a caput. So the fetal complications that are there are that there are high chances of forming the scalp injury, which will bring about cephalohematomas. Also, the other complication that may come about as a result of using a metallic ventral scalp is that there are higher chances of intracranial hemorrhages, also retinal hemorrhages. The maternal complications that there are high chances of having genital tract laceration and tears. So we'll look at another common instrument, which is the hook or the crochet. Okay. So the crochet is used in the groin when you walk in the traction of the dead fetus. You know that sometimes there are conditions whereby we find that there is intrauterine and fetal death. So the crochet is the one that is used to help in the what? In the delivery of the fetal death which is in the uterus. Okay, so the way it can be is that when we identify that there is intrauterine fetal death and the presentation maybe sometimes is not cephalic, we insert it with the KY gel into the vagina, then we put the leg of the fetus in a transverse line. Okay, so the crochet is also used to apply traction on the fetal lower jaw, orbit, or foramen magnum. Okay. The crochet is also used to apply traction on fetal head after craniotomy. So those are the common instruments that are used in obstetrics and gynecology. Any questions?
Like okay, but
Any questions?
some other instruments, yeah, some other instruments I didn't get clear. I guess I'll understand when I receive the notes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sit down.
Huh?
Any questions?
No question.
Have you understood? You have, huh? Yeah, so
Yes.
we revise a bit on the common contraceptives that are found during OSCE. Okay, so the instruments that we've talked about, these are the common instruments that are likely to be found on OSCE stations. So we also look at other common instruments or common contraceptives that are found on OSCE stations that are a must know. Okay, so we'll talk about the combined oral contraceptives. Okay, so these they are made up of levonorgestrone and ethinyl. Okay, so they also have a composition of ferrous formaldehyde in them. Okay, so the mechanism of action is that the combination of hormonal contraceptives they inhibit ovulation. So in the process of inhibiting ovulation, they prevent fertilization and implantation from taking place. Okay. So the other mechanism of action, what happens is that when these patients are taking these contraceptives, there are changes in the cervical mucus. There's a change in the cervical mucus. Okay, which means when there's a change in the cervical mucus, it also leads to, and it lends to a situation when there's an unfavorable sperm penetration. So what happens is that when these women start taking these contraceptives, the cervical mucus become too thick. So as a result of the mucus become too thick, when the sperms are introduced there, it's difficult for them to penetrate through them. As a result, making it difficult for implantation to do, fertilization and implantation to take place. Okay. So these contraceptives also they have a property of making the sperm become like a foreign body once it's been introduced in the body. The advantages of hormonal contraceptives is that they decrease in the menstrual flow and the clamps. They also improve in anemia because we know that they also have a composition of the phallus formulate. They also protect against ovarian and endometrial cancer. They also have a property of decreasing the benign breast lumps. They also prevent the chances of a woman having ectopic pregnancy. What are the contraindications? The contraindications of using these is that they bring about nausea and dizziness. Also, sometimes there is breast tenderness. And when these women start taking these contraceptives, there's a high tendency of them having intermenstrual bleeding. You find that during the month, even when it's not the time they're supposed to their period, you find that there is intermensal or spotty bleeding that comes about. There's also the contraindications that are there is that some these women who tend to do what to be those women who are obese, we do not give them these contraceptives. Okay, the dosing, how do we give these doses? So we start these women the first dose, the first day of the menstrual period. Okay, so they take these tablets daily in a consecutive days. And we know that in the last 7 days of the menstrual cycles, there are what we call the replaceable tablets. These are the ones that contain iron and folic supplementation. Okay, so one package it has tablets that go for, it has a set of 28 pills. In which 21 pills there are contraceptives that are being taken, and the 7 pills are of iron supplementation, which are like replaceables. Another type of contraceptives that is commonly used during the OSCE station is what we call as the copper T. Okay, so the copper T, the mechanism of action is the same for most all the contraceptives that we use, because we know that the basic thing that we want to look at, we want to prevent unwanted pregnancies. And you know, these contraceptives, we should know that they do not protect against any STIs. The only mechanism of action that is happening is that they are preventing what the occurrence of a pregnancy. What are the mechanisms of the copper T? So it's a biochemical and histological changes in the endometrium lining that is there. Okay, there is impaired sperm ascent. So even if sperm is reach here, which means it's recognized as a foreign body, it's hostile. It cannot be, the implantation cannot take place. Also, the contraindications of inserting a copper T is that before you even insert it, we should ensure that this woman, we've done the growth index and we've ruled out pregnancy, because we know that if this woman gets pregnant, this will be an ectopic pregnancy. The contraindications that this patient is pregnant, we should also, if there's a carcinoma of the cervix, we cannot insert a copper T. Also, if there's the PID, we cannot insert the copper T. In situations where there is peripheral sepsis, we cannot insert the copper T as well. Okay, so at what period are we supposed to insert the copper T? So the copper T can be inserted postpartum 48 hours, or after, it can be after a normal delivery, or it can be after an abortion. So another common instrument that is used is the pap smear. So this, you can find it on an OSCE station. Okay, so the pap smear kit is like, it has an area spatula, like the same as the spatula that we use sometimes to retract the tongue. Okay, so it is used when you want to take the smear from the cervix, it can be the posterior vaginal or the upper third of the retrovaginal wall. We use the RAC spatula. Okay. So the way it is made is that it also has a cito brush, which is used to take the smear. When we insert it, we've examined the 1/3, which can be the posterior of the vagina. The cito brush is the one that you insert it there. It will brush off, and it uses a solution of ethanol, which is 95% of it. What are the indications for the pap smear? So remember when we talked about cervical cancer, we had talked about the CIN grading, the cervical intraepithelial neoplasm. Also, in cases where we want to look at that grading, we can use the RA spatula. Also in cervical cancer, we can use it. Okay, we can use it in cases like hormonal cytology from the upper third of the lateral vagina. Oh. So, we also look at an Henne's hysterectomy clamp. So this one, the NS hysterectomy clamp, though it is not much common use, it's a ridge on one blade and a notch on the other. It's non-toothed. Okay, so the curve is facing the structure can be moved so that the ligature can be passed around what the clamp. So the NS hysterectomy clamp, sometimes we find that the other one it can be toothed. Okay, so like an example of a tooth is it can be the coach's clamp, the mango's clamp. So let us look at the tooth action forceps, and so there are two types. Okay, the holding forceps they can be a tooth holding forceps and they can be a nanny tooth. The nanny tooth most sometimes in conditions in surgical procedures like cesarean section is the one that we use when you're trying to close the skin. Also, sometimes when you want to make an incision on the uterus during cesarean section, we can use them tooth one. So the needle holding forceps, this is the common used instrument in the hospital setups, because we know that every time we want to suture, it's the same instrument that is used to hold the needle. So the Kama's cannula, it's used, the Kama's cannula, this is another instrument that is used when you're trying to do the manual vacuum aspiration. Its indication is mostly in the MVA also. It has the property of sucking 400 to 600 millimeters it has the property of suction, which